the discontinued Citadel GLAZE paints. Some people swore by them, especially a certain YouTubing Imperial Fists collector. Others barely knew they existed at all. But now Duncan Rhodes has brought them back. After successfully launching his Two Thin Coats paint range with Trans-atlantis Games in 2022, thanks to Kickstarter, now comes Wave 2, which includes 6 brand new glaze paints to help you boost the vibrancy of your paint jobs. I'm Stahly from Tale of Painters, and in this video I'll be reviewing all 60 colors from the second wave and sharing some of my long-term experiences and nitpicks with Two Thin Coats Wave 1. Among the various new paint ranges I reviewed in recent years, Two Thin Coats is probably my most favorite because the range is so consistent. Unlike other ranges that might have strong acrylics but weak metallics, or say, have fantastic reds but weak yellows, Two Thin Coats delivers across the board. I've already done a thorough review of the 60 colors in Wave 1 on my channel, so I won't go over all the basic paint properties again in this video. To make a long story short, all the acrylics boast high opacity and smooth application, while the metallics and washes are great as well. Duncan has even taken the liberty of matching most of the colors to the current Citadel color range, making transitioning from Citadel paints incredibly easy with the help of these handy color match charts. The only flaw I could find, and this is based on long-term use, would be the bottles. Although I generally prefer dropper bottles over pots, these bottles along with Pro Acryls are probably my least favorite. While they do come with an agitator, which is a plus, the plastic is rather stiff, making them hard to squeeze. I also experienced issues with leaking and blocked nozzles. Please let me know in the comments if you had similar issues. Apparently, this was caused due to overfilling bottles in early batches, and I'm pleased to report that this has been less of a problem with Wave 2. Speaking of Wave 2, we get 60 exciting new colors, bringing the total range to an impressive 120 colors, plus a few Kickstarter exclusive special paints and additives. The second wave breaks down into 9 new triads, 6 bright paints, 6 metallic paints, 3 washes and 6 glaze paints. More on the bright and glaze paints in a few moments. Let's take a look at the new triads first, which I hand painted on primed plastic card and photographed professionally under neutral 5500K light as usual. There are 3 new bright magenta and pink colors and a new muted red triad with a cool hue. On the right side, I'll put the counterparts from the Citadel color range according to Duncan's conversion chart. As you can see, Evil Eye Red is meant to match Wasdaka Red, but it's actually more of a light brick red. There are new blues that are more vivid than the blue triad in Wave 1 was, and also 3 shades of turquoise. There's a cool green triad that is very much based on the 3 teal greens from the Citadel range, though I think Hydra Green would be a closer match to Lupercal Green than Incubi Darkness. There is a muted green triad that can be used for Orc Skin. Orchide doesn't go as dark as War Flash, as you can see. There are also a total of 6 olive greens and 3 warm greys to cover more natural and historic tones. The grey-greens have no real equivalence to the Citadel paint range, and the suggested alternatives from the conversion chart, which I put on the right, are quite off. We also have a nice warm brown triad that transitions into a warm ochre triad, as well as a triad for light olive skin. This triad has no real counterparts in the Citadel range, which is why the conversion chart does not list any here. The brown triad for darker skin tones is a close match to the Citadel range though. Now, the bright paints are clearly inspired by Citadel's edge paints, which initially existed as a separate sub-range until they were eventually merged into the layer paints label. There is a light yellow, orange, red, green, blue and lilac. They're all pretty much what you expect from light paints. The coverage is surprisingly decent, though they don't go as bright as Citadel edge paints were. Hellspawn Red stands out as its saturation is so intense that for some weird color perception physics it seems to be a nuance darker than Demon Red from the first wave. It's a quite unique red paint and almost identical to bright Pyro Red from Pro Acryl, but I think it doesn't really fit into the Two Thin Coats palette. Moving on to the 6 new metallics, Wave 2 expands the range with 2 additional brass shades, which are both very similar, a feedback I gave to Trans-atlantis Games. There's also a lighter and a darker reddish copper color. A platinum color and a dark silver identical to Iron Warriors from GW complete the metallic palette. Like the metallic paints from Wave 1, these new metallic colors have fine metallic particles and a very high opacity, even brighter colors such as Top Brass or Platinum Crown. The paints do not separate as much as some metallic paints from Citadel, but still need to be shaken well. Before I get to the glazes, I want to mention that Wave 2 has 3 more washes to complement the 6 washes from the first wave. A red, purple and blue wash. 2 thin coats washes are quite nice, they dry rather matte and have more of a tint than the new Formula Citadel shade paints. Check my video of Wave 1 in the top right corner if you want to know more. Alright, the moment you've been waiting for, let's check out the new glaze paints. Apparently, the old Citadel glaze paints didn't sell that well, so they were eventually discontinued, but they garnered something of a cult following. The yellow glaze, Lamenters yellow, was especially popular as it was often used to brighten up the mustard-like Avalanche sunset to paint yellow armor. Now let's see how Duncan's glazes compare to Citadel's. I can attest that the yellow glaze is a perfect match for Lamenters yellow, absolutely spot on. I'm sorry Mr. Valrak, I hope you didn't spend too much on your Lamenters yellow shrine. The red glaze, you can tell it's made with the same pigment as Bloodletter was. The blue and green glaze also seem to use the same pigments as their Citadel counterparts, but they have a bit more punch. With a bit of thinning, they should be very close matches. The orange and purple glaze are also good, but I think the purple glaze is a bit too dark and feels more like a wash. If you were a fan of the old Citadel glaze paints, then 2 thin coats glazes are the closest you can get now, and they will give you a more authentic experience than thinning contrast paints. Now, before I give you an overview of all 120 colors from both Wave 1 and 2 and share my final thoughts about the expanded 2 thin coats range, please help me grow my channel and smash the like button, subscribe and hit the bell, as there will be plenty more paint and hobby reviews coming. You can also support me on Patreon for exclusive tutorials and resources, such as my hand-painted charts for all 1-coat paints and acrylic washes on the market. I just love doing charts, so here are the combined color swatches with all 120 colors from 2 thin coats Wave 1 and 2, which you can download on my website, plus side-by-side comparisons with their counterparts from the Citadel color range. Hope this helps you find the perfect color for your next projects. So, what do I think? Well, with its impressive range of 120 colors, 2 thin coats has become quite a substantial paint range. I would still like to see a third wave, for example with some magenta reds or a dark petrol like Incubi Darkness. Since the palette became more complete and the problem with the leaking dropper bottles seems to have been solved, I'm raising the rating from my first video from 8.5 to 9. While on an individual basis, there are other paint ranges that may have washes or metallic paints that I like a tiny bit more, 2 thin coats is currently one of the few paint ranges where everything is at a well above average level. The acrylics, metallics, washes and glazes all have a consistently high quality with no duds at all. So I feel you simply can't go wrong with 2 thin coats, whether you're a beginner or an expert painter. And while the price is higher than other ranges, I believe it's justified, as in my opinion, hobby time is too valuable to waste it with subpar paints. That's just me however, so please let me know in the comments if you prefer to paint on a budget or would spend an extra on high opacity and paint quality. In the video here on the right, I go into more detail about the properties of Duncan's acrylics, metallics and washes and go through all 60 colors of the first wave, so make sure to watch that next. Thanks a lot and happy hobbying!